Picture this. I'm sitting in the most important meeting of my career, surrounded by 12 board members. My boss, Derek Harrington, stands at the mahogany table in our Manhattan office, about to present the quarterly projections I've worked on for 3 months. Then he says the words that would change everything. Don't worry about the financial complexities here. She won't understand the numbers anyway. The room falls silent. 12 pairs of eyes turn to me. Valentina Rodriguez, senior financial analyst, CPA, MBA from Wharton, and the woman who just spent 96 hours perfecting every decimal point in those projections. My heart pounds against my ribcage. The late October rain pelts against the 42nd floor windows of our Wall Street building, creating a backdrop to what feels like the most humiliating moment of my 5-year career at Meridian Financial Group. Board member Catherine Walsh shifts uncomfortably in her chair. I can see the confusion in her eyes. She knows I've been leading the quarterly analysis for 2 years straight. She knows I saved this company $2.3 million last quarter with my cost reduction strategies. Derek continues his presentation, oblivious to the bomb he just dropped. As I was saying, gentlemen, the third quarter shows promising growth patterns. Gentlemen. In a room where 4 of the 12 board members are women, I glance at my notebook, filled with red ink corrections to Derek's presentation. Numbers that don't add up, projections that ignore market volatility, assumptions that could cost shareholders millions. All mistakes I've been trying to bring to his attention for weeks. My phone buzzes with a text from my colleague Marcus. Did he just say what I think he said? The whole finance floor heard it. The presentation drones on. Derek clicks through slides I created during countless late nights, explains concepts I researched, presents solutions I developed. But according to him, I wouldn't understand the numbers. The irony tastes bitter. 3 months ago, Derek couldn't calculate compound interest without asking me to double-check his work. Last week, he asked me what EBITDA stood for. Again. Yesterday, he needed 15 minutes to help him interpret a basic profit and loss statement. As he stumbles through the revenue projections, my revenue projections that I spent 2 weeks modeling, I make a decision that will echo through this company's halls for months. I reach into my briefcase and pull out 2 manila folders. One contains my resignation letter written last night. The other holds the real projections, the ones that paint a drastically different picture than what Derek is presenting. Board member James Patterson leans forward with a frown. What about the Q4 forecasting models? The methodology seems unclear, and the risk assessments appear incomplete. Derek fumbles with his laser pointer, confidence cracking. Well, the thing is, those models are... I stand up, my chair rolling silently backward. Every conversation in the room stops. Every head turns toward me. The rain outside intensifies, matching the storm brewing inside this boardroom. My hands are steady despite my racing heart. 5 years of corporate battles have taught me to channel anger into precision. Mr. Harrington, I say, my voice cutting through his stammering. Perhaps I should clarify those Q4 forecasting models, since I designed them. Every single one. Derek's face goes from confident to terrified in 3 seconds. Valentina, I don't think now is the appropriate... Actually, interrupts board chair Margaret Chen, I'd like to hear Ms. Rodriguez's explanation. The methodology presented is unclear, and some of these numbers don't align with our preliminary reviews. I walk to the front of the room, my heels clicking against the marble floor. Derek steps aside, and I can smell his nervous sweat mixing with expensive cologne. Ladies and gentlemen, I emphasize, making eye contact with each woman at the table. What you're seeing in Mr. Harrington's presentation is not just incomplete, it's dangerously misleading. I distribute copies of the real projections from my second folder. These are the actual Q4 forecasts, including market volatility adjustments, regulatory compliance costs, and risk mitigation strategies that were completely omitted from the presentation you just heard. Catherine Walsh flips through the pages, her eyebrows rising. These numbers are dramatically different. The variance is enormous. 47% different in revenue projections alone, I confirm. The projections, Mr. Harrington presented overestimate revenue by $12.8 million and underestimate operational costs by $8.2 million. The room erupts in whispers. Derek's face has gone pale, his confidence evaporating. Furthermore, I continue, pulling up my tablet. The growth projections completely fail to account for the proposed federal banking regulations that take effect January 1st. Regulations that will directly impact 63% of our lending portfolio. I've been trying to discuss this oversight with Mr. Harrington for 6 weeks. James Patterson leans forward intensely. Ms. Rodriguez, are you telling this board that the presentation we just heard contains material errors that could affect our fiduciary obligations to shareholders? I'm telling you that the presentation contains assumptions and omissions that could expose this company to significant financial risk, potential regulatory violations, and shareholder litigation. Derek finally finds his voice, though it wavers. Valentina, you're completely out of line. These are preliminary numbers. Everyone knows that. Preliminary? I turn to face him directly. Mr. Harrington, 20 minutes ago you told the board that I wouldn't understand numbers. Let me help you understand something about numbers, and about me. I walk back and retrieve the first manila folder. The resignation letter feels weighted with 5 years of accumulated frustration. I've been running the financial analysis for this company's board presentations for 24 months straight. I have a master's degree in finance from Wharton, graduated summa cum laude. I'm a CPA with advanced specialization in corporate risk assessment, and I've saved this company over $4.2 million in the past 18 months. The room is dead silent, except for the rain against the windows. But you're right about one thing, Mr. Harrington. I don't understand something. I place the resignation letter on the table with a soft thud. I don't understand how someone who needed my help calculating quarterly tax obligations last Tuesday can stand in front of the board and confidently claim I don't understand numbers. Margaret Chen picks up my resignation letter with trembling fingers. Margaret Chen opens my resignation letter while the other board members examine my corrected projections with increasing alarm. Derek stands frozen, his presentation remote, dangling uselessly. Ms. Rodriguez, Margaret says quietly, this resignation letter is effective immediately. Yes, ma'am. As of this moment, I am no longer employed by Meridian Financial Group. I've documented every discrepancy between what was presented today and the actual financial reality. I've also included comprehensive recommendations for Q4 risk mitigation and a detailed transition plan. Catherine Walsh looks up from the projections, face pale. These recommendations could save us millions in potential losses and regulatory fines. $8.7 million in direct savings specifically, I reply. The currency fluctuation hedging strategy alone protects us from $3.2 million in foreign exchange exposure that wasn't addressed in Mr. Harrington's presentation. Derek speaks up, voice shaky. Valentina, let's discuss this privately. There's clearly been a serious misunderstanding here. The only misunderstanding, I say, gathering my belongings, is your assumption that my contributions to this company are either invisible or irrelevant. After 5 years of watching my work be presented as yours, I'm done being professional about unprofessional behavior. James Patterson addresses Derek directly. Mr. Harrington, can you explain to this board why critical risk assessments weren't included in your presentation today? Derek's stammering response tells me everything about his lack of preparation. The risk assessments we felt that the preliminary nature. Preliminary? Margaret Chen's voice cuts through his excuses. Mr. Harrington, we're 3 weeks away from finalizing our Q4 strategy. This is hardly preliminary. My phone buzzes with messages from colleagues. The corporate gossip network moves faster than fiber optic cables, and news of a public resignation during a board meeting is career earthquake material. As I pack my notebook and calculator, Margaret Chen stands up. Ms. Rodriguez, before you leave this building, I need to ask something critical. Are you open to discussing this situation further? Ma'am, with respect, I've spent 5 years watching my work be presented by someone who publicly questions my competence while privately relying on my expertise. Today was the final straw. What if the situation were fundamentally different? She asks carefully. The question hangs in the air. I can feel Derek's panic radiating across the room. Different how exactly? I ask. What if you were presenting directly to this board instead of through intermediaries who clearly don't understand your work? The implications hit everyone simultaneously. Derek's face goes ashen. The other board members lean forward with interest. I appreciate the hypothetical, Mrs. Chen, I say, slinging my purse over my shoulder. but my decision is final. However, I am willing to facilitate a proper transition to ensure this board receives accurate financial analysis going forward. Who would you recommend as your replacement? Asked board member Patricia Morrison. I smile for the first time since entering this room. Actually, Mrs. Morrison, I recommend restructuring the entire financial reporting chain. No single person should have the power to filter or misrepresent critical data before it reaches this board. Catherine Walsh nods approvingly. That's remarkably smart strategic thinking. As I head toward the door, Margaret Chen calls out, Ms. Rodriguez, would you be willing to present your transition recommendations to this board next week? As a consultant? I pause at the threshold, looking back at Derek, who seems to be physically shrinking. I'll send my comprehensive recommendations in writing within 48 hours, I reply, along with complete documentation of every presentation discrepancy over the past 24 months. The door closes behind me with a soft click that echoes like thunder. 3 weeks later, I'm sitting in my new corner office at Goldman Sachs, watching the Manhattan skyline through floor-to-ceiling windows. My title is Director of Strategic Financial Analysis, with a 42% salary increase and direct reporting to managing directors who actually understand what I bring to the table. The irony isn't lost on me. Derek once told me I'd never make it past senior analyst at a real firm like Goldman. Now I'm 3 floors higher than he ever was, with a team of 6 analysts reporting to me. My phone rings. It's Marcus from Meridian, excitement barely contained in his voice. Valentina, you're not going to believe what happened yesterday. This is better than any corporate drama Netflix could produce. Try me, I say, leaning back in my ergonomic chair. Derek was terminated yesterday morning. The board hired Deloitte to conduct an external audit of the past 2 years of financial presentations. They found over 37 instances where the numbers didn't match the supporting documentation you'd prepared. I watched the harbor traffic below. And Margaret Chen called Derek into her office Monday morning. HR was there, along with legal and 2 security guards. They gave him 15 minutes to clean out his office. Security escorted him through the lobby like a corporate criminal. The image makes me smile despite myself. What about his final presentation responsibilities? Complete disaster. Remember the quarterly review he was supposed to present to the Deutsche Bank Partnership Committee? He couldn't answer basic questions about risk modeling, couldn't explain the methodology, and when they asked about regulatory compliance, he said, and I quote, "That's more of a detail-oriented question." I laugh, remembering Derek's dismissal of my attention to minor details. Were those the projections I corrected? The exact same ones. Without your corrections, his presentation fell apart like a house of cards. Deutsche Bank pulled out entirely. Cost us about $12 million in potential revenue. There's more, Marcus continues conspiratorially. They're implementing every single one of your transition recommendations. Complete restructuring of financial reporting protocols. Direct analyst to board presentations. Mandatory peer review. And they're calling it the Rodriguez Framework in internal documents. The Rodriguez Framework. My name attached to systemic change that will protect future analysts from what I endured. They offered Catherine Walsh the interim CFO position. She accepted, and her first decision was to promote 3 women to senior analyst positions and restructure the entire finance department. Catherine Walsh, who questioned Derek's methodology in that boardroom, who recognized competence when she saw it. How's the new reporting structure working out? I ask. Like a Swiss watch. Turns out when qualified people present their own work directly, quality improves dramatically. Our latest board presentation got unanimous approval. After hanging up, I open my email. There's a message from Margaret Chen. Consulting opportunity, urgent. Ms. Rodriguez, Meridian Financial Group, would like to formally engage your consulting services to help implement the new financial reporting protocols. The board unanimously approved this proposal. The consulting fee is $750 per hour, with an estimated 60-hour project scope, plus expenses. We've learned that understanding numbers is crucial to our success. More importantly, we've learned that recognizing the people who understand those numbers best is even more crucial. Regards, Margaret Chen, Board Chair. I smile and begin typing my response. This consulting project will pay me more in 2 months than Derek made in 6. Derek Harrington taught me something invaluable that day, though I doubt he intended to. He taught me that my worth isn't determined by someone else's ability to recognize it. He taught me that walking away from disrespect isn't giving up. It's leveling up to where I belong. And he taught me that when someone says you won't understand the numbers, the most powerful response is to show them exactly how well you understand everything. The numbers, the game, and your own value. 6 months later, I'm reading the Wall Street Journal when I see a small item. Meridian Financial Group reports record Q4 performance. The article mentions their innovative risk management protocols and restructured analytical framework that contributed to an 18% stock price increase. Derek, according to LinkedIn, is working at a small accounting firm in Newark, processing individual tax returns, and presumably learning to appreciate the importance of getting numbers right. Meanwhile, I'm being headhunted by 3 Fortune 500 companies. I've been invited to speak at the National Association of Financial Analysts conference, and Harvard Business Review wants to publish my article on systemic change through individual action. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it's simply being exactly who you've always been, competent, brilliant, and impossible to ignore, in a place where that's not just tolerated but celebrated. The numbers don't lie. They never do, and neither do I. The end.